David Walliams sold over 50 million children's books and became one of Britain's most beloved entertainers. But in 2022, everything changed after one leaked conversation shocked the nation. What audiences heard ended his decade-long run on Britain's Got Talent and shattered his public image overnight. Yet, those crude comments were only the surface. The real story goes far deeper, a story filled with hidden struggles, lifelong pain, and dark memories that began when he was barely old enough to understand them. Behind the fame, fortune, and laughter, David Walliams was a man constantly fighting to survive his own mind. Born on August 20, 1971, in Merton, London, David's early life was modest. His father, Peter, worked for London Transport and earned about $8,000 a year, while his mother, Kathleen, worked in a hospital laboratory, making roughly $5,200 annually. The family lived in a tiny two-bedroom house in Banstead, Surrey, valued at only $18,000 at the time. From the outside, it seemed like a normal, humble life. But inside those walls, young David was already retreating into his imagination. At just 4 years old, he would lock himself in the bathroom for hours, mimicking voices he'd heard on television. His mother often caught him having full conversations with imaginary people, each with its own distinct accent and personality. What no one realized then was that he was already wrestling with deep sadness and anxiety, even as a child. When he was 7, David joined the Sea Scouts, hoping to fit in and make friends. But within just 3 weeks, things went horribly wrong. Older boys started bullying him for being too posh and too dramatic. That summer, during a camp on Brownsea Island, something truly terrifying happened. One night, he was discovered hanging from a tree by his neckerchief. Scout leaders called it an accident, but years later, David admitted it had been a suicide attempt. He had tried to end his life. The adults didn't tell the truth, his parents were told he had simply fallen. That single moment marked the beginning of a lifelong battle with depression. He became one of the youngest known children in the UK to attempt suicide while in the Scouts. By age 10, David had found a strange kind of escape in comedy. He used his entire weekly allowance of £2, about $2, to buy second-hand comedy albums from charity shops. He collected 47 in total and memorized every word from Monty Python to Rowan Atkinson. His mother once found him awake at 2 a.m., performing a full show in front of the mirror while dressed in her clothes. That same year, doctors prescribed him imipramine, a powerful antidepressant rarely given to children at the time. He began wearing headphones for up to 8 hours a day just to block out his dark thoughts. His grades started to plummet. Within 6 months, he went from straight A's to D's. He was choosing laughter over everything else, using humor as his only lifeline. In 1982, David enrolled at Reigate Grammar School, hoping for a fresh start. But instead of acceptance, he was met with cruelty. Within his first term, he was hospitalized twice, once for a broken nose and once after being locked inside a cupboard for hours. Classmates mocked his mannerisms and voice, nicknaming him Coco. His weight dropped drastically from 6 stone to just 4 stone, 8 pounds, a dangerous level for his age. His English teacher kept notes about how he often showed up covered in bruises, always claiming he had fallen down the stairs. The worst moment came in 1984, when bullies forced him to perform comedy routines in the school toilets while they threw wet toilet paper at him. Still, despite the cruelty, his drama teacher recognized his talent. David scored 98% on a solo project, a one-man show about loneliness. But even as his creativity flourished, his mental health worsened. That same year, when he was only 12, David attempted suicide for the second time. After another humiliating incident at the Sea Scouts, where older boys stripped him during a fake swimming test, he returned home and tried to hang himself with his school tie. His mother found him unconscious. Paramedics arrived at 7:43 p.m. He had been without oxygen for nearly 3 minutes. He was hospitalized and placed under psychiatric watch for 72 hours. Doctors noted that his thoughts were alarmingly dark for a child his age. His parents finally withdrew him from the Scouts permanently. But the trauma lingered for decades. He would not speak publicly about this attempt until 2008. At 13, David joined the National Youth Theatre, a dream come true for many aspiring performers. But even there, surrounded by creative peers, he felt painfully alone. He met Matt Lucas during those years, who would later become his comedy partner, yet even that early friendship couldn't ease his sadness. David said he always felt like everyone else had friends, while he was just pretending to be happy. The loneliness followed him everywhere. When he turned 16, David joined the Actors' Equity Union. But there was already another actor named David Walliams. Forced to pick a new name, he opened the phone book, pointed randomly, and landed on Walliams. That one small decision changed his life. His father was furious, feeling David was abandoning the family name, but for David, it was an act of reinvention, a way to escape his own identity. He later said it wasn't about fame or show business, it was about not wanting to be himself anymore. In 1989, David began studying drama at the University of Bristol. But during his first winter break, he suffered another breakdown. Returning home for Christmas, he overdosed on pills in his childhood bedroom. His mother found him barely conscious and rushed him to the hospital in tears. He survived, but the experience became a turning point. For the first time, his parents fully grasped the depth of his despair. At Bristol, he joined a student comedy group called Davidic and the Orphans of Jesus, which featured future stars like Simon Pegg. On stage, he was hilarious, but off stage, he was hollow and distant. He once described feeling like the loneliest person in the world. His classmates had no idea how severe his depression really was. By 1991, David and Simon Pegg had become close friends. Pegg later recalled thinking David was an extrovert born to entertain, but David's private diary told another story, filled with vivid descriptions of suicidal thoughts and fantasies about stepping in front of a train. These weren't fleeting ideas, he researched methods, times, and locations. Even surrounded by friends, the pain never went away. In 1992, at age 21, David performed his first solo show, Games Night, at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It received glowing reviews, but behind the curtain, he was suffering from panic attacks and lost 14 pounds from stress. He completed all 18 shows, but it nearly broke him. The audience saw a confident young comic, unaware he was battling to keep himself alive. Still, the show helped him secure an agent and take his first step into professional comedy. By 1995, he reunited with Matt Lucas to create Mash and Peas, a surreal comedy series produced on a shoestring budget of just $8,000 per episode. It satirized old children's shows and quickly became a cult favorite. However, one sketch, titled I'm Blackin' Dads in the Clan, sparked outrage and was banned for being too offensive. Despite the backlash, the show established them as boundary-pushing comedians. In 1999, the duo launched Rock Profile, a parody show where they impersonated pop stars in mock interviews. It became a massive hit, drawing over 2 million viewers during a 2001 special. But behind the scenes, tension grew. David frequently disappeared mid-filming without warning, leaving Lucas to improvise. They mocked celebrities like Gary Barlow, who even threatened legal action, yet their popularity only soared. That same year, David made a memorable appearance on the cult sitcom Spaced, playing Vulva, an eccentric, androgynous performance artist. He spent hours in makeup for a role lasting just 8 minutes, culminating in a surreal scene where he's punched during an art show. Though short, the performance was intensely personal for David, reflecting his inner conflict. In 2002, he starred in Cruise of the Gods, a BBC film where he played a fan obsessed with a fictional sci-fi show. To prepare, he attended real fan conventions, studying their devotion. Critics praised his performance for balancing comedy with heartbreak, especially his 2-minute monologue about being let down by childhood heroes, a speech many said mirrored his own life. David Walliams' rise to stardom began quietly in August 2000 when he and Matt Lucas launched Little Britain on BBC Radio 4. It aired late at night, but quickly became a word-of-mouth sensation. The show introduced bizarre, outrageous characters like Vicky Pollard, Emily Howard, and Marjorie Dawes, pushing boundaries and tackling taboo subjects with a mix of satire and shock. The 9-episode series became the seed of a $25 million comedy empire. By 2003, Little Britain moved to television, premiering on BBC Three to a record 1.8 million viewers. David transformed himself with wigs, makeup, and costumes, bringing his wild characters to life. One of the most iconic was Emily Howard, a man in Victorian dress insisting, "I'm a lady." By 2005, the show had moved to BBC One and was attracting 9.5 million viewers per episode, nearly 40% of the audience at the time. DVD sales alone earned $3.5 million. Walliams had officially become a household name. But controversy followed. In 2004, he introduced Harvey Pincher, a man-child who cried "Biddy, Biddy" while pretending to breastfeed in public. The sketches horrified parents and religious groups. Some countries banned them entirely. Yet, the character's popularity led to Biddy merchandise, generating even more profit. Walliams later admitted he created it purely to shock, and it worked. From 2005 to 2006, Walliams and Lucas embarked on a record-breaking live tour, the longest-running UK comedy tour ever, performing 201 shows for over 800,000 fans and grossing $25 million. Tickets sold out a year in advance. But behind the scenes, David was in crisis. On New Year's Day 2003, he slit his wrists and throat with a kitchen knife. Later that same year, he attempted hanging. In his diary, he wrote, "I knew I didn't really want to die. I just didn't want to live." Despite the pain, he kept performing night after night. His mother once discovered him after an overdose and was inconsolable. Even while being treated at the Priory Clinic for severe depression, he continued touring. In 2008, Little Britain crossed the Atlantic with Little Britain USA on HBO, earning 2 Emmy nominations. This time, David infused more of his real sadness into the characters, not just playing them for laughs, but as reflections of his own brokenness.